Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We didn't plan on going live for today's show, but oh my God, the Denver Nuggets have fired head coach Michael Malone and GM Calvin Booth. Keith, this is now the second time in the last few months that I have had to double, triple, quadruple check and make sure that Shams Charania did not get hacked. My mind is blown. What are the Nuggets doing here?
Yeah, this is obviously coming out of nowhere. Now, the Nuggets and Josh Kroenke, the owner, would like us to know they're just not renewing Calvin Booth's contract. It's the same thing. I've already had like 7 people say they didn't really fire Calvin Booth. Yes, they did. It amounts to the exact same thing. It is what it is. If we start there with the front office, that one makes sense to me with the idea of if you were out that Calvin Booth was your guy going forward, this is too crucial of a point in the front office calendar to move forward with him. You would need to really be in a place where it is, all right, let's get somebody else in there. What's going on right now in front offices is draft prep. You're scheduling draft workouts. You're getting your scouts in from on the road and doing all your stuff. You're setting your draft board. While all that's going on, you're setting up your summer strategy, whether that be extensions, trades, free agent targets, whatever it is. Then if you had kind of decided he's not our guy who's going to do that going forward, then no issue with that. Get somebody new into plan. Michael Malone is coming out of nowhere. I said repeatedly on the Taylor Jenkins thing, it felt like Taylor Jenkins had kind of lost that locker room.
Yeah.
It felt like he had lost that team. There's no indications that's the case with Michael Malone. And here we are, that now the Nuggets are David Adelman's going to be their head coach for the remainder of the season. We don't really know who's running the front office. That's not paramount right now. They'll get somebody new in there. There's no more real transactions in the moment here, but that will be something they're going to have to move on very quickly, and we'll see where this goes. My guess is Michael Malone be out of work for probably a month, maybe at best, before another team hires him.
Sure.
When other coaches are let go here in a week or so.
And we don't know what his contract looks like. If he wants another head coaching job, he may say, you know what, I want to take a little time away. He may be, I don't know, maybe he's got 3 years left with Denver. I haven't looked to see when he last did his deal. So maybe he says, I'm going to go hang out on a beach for a year and relax while getting paid. But the chat, Keith, is not happy with me because I did not do this.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
There it is. So there you go. Just so we make it all official. Yes, there was breaking news here. I understand.
Yeah, check in. Everybody can hear us, right? Because I'm seeing one person say they can't hear us.
Yeah, I've got levels on my side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just let us know. James Walker, I think it's on mute. Check that you're not on mute, my brother.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my thinking here. I get if they decided Michael Malone's not the coach for this team moving forward. I get if they decided Calvin. I think you can question why did they come to that decision. But let's say they have their reasons they come to that decision. It jumps us to, though, why now? Why 3 games before the NBA playoffs are starting up here? Taylor Jenkins lose the locker room, but did Michael Malone lose the locker room? Is that where we're at? I mean, I know there were some comments out of Denver the other day that they didn't feel like there was enough sense of urgency. They have lost 4 in a row. Now, they lost to the San Antonio Spurs. That doesn't look great, but they had a bunch of guys they benched for that game. They lost to the Warriors. They lost to some decent teams.
Yeah.
They lost to the Pacers, but this is, Shams Charania reported just a few minutes ago, this is tied for the latest head coaching dismissal ever in the NBA in the season. So why is it really that he lost the locker room? Is that where we're at?
More will come out. The downside to us going live is we don't always have all the details on things, and more will probably come out. But that's going to be my guess, is they just felt like now is the time to make a change. As weird as that may be, like we said, with Taylor Jenkins, it really felt like they were things just weren't good in Memphis. I don't think they're nearly as bad in Denver, but I mean, they've lost 4 in a row. They're in a virtual 5-way tie for the 4th through 8th seeds in the Western Conference. So that really means they'll be, somewhere in the playoffs, but who knows, right? Michael Malone, what did he say the other day about Jamal Murray? Like, we're hopeful he can play come playoff time, and that's not great. Like, you don't want to hear that. So yeah, I think we're in a spot where it really is like just these. It almost feels Premier League-ish, right? Where it's like we went through a bad month. It's time to fire the coach and make a change. For those who don't watch the Premier League, like they fire coaches like left and right over there. Almost after, like I said, a bad month, they'll fire a coach. So yeah, just strange timing. The Calvin Booth one, I will repeat it, just makes a lot more sense because of what's happening in a front office right now as far as the calendar goes. But the coach, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's going to come out the other day that someone is really like, like they were done. They tuned him out. They weren't going to get there or something. And if that's the case, then all right, I guess then if that news comes out, I'm going to feel the same way I did with the Grizzlies of, all right, you're not going anywhere great anyway. So why not make a change?
Yeah, that's if that's really where they're at, that they're just not going anywhere as is. Okay, I mean, this could be, we do see sometimes where teams get a short boost after firing a head coach. And, it could be that the Denver Nuggets, looking ahead, they're tied. There's 5 teams in the West, which is crazy, tied with 32 losses. The Nuggets have lost 4 in a row. They are in danger of falling into the play-in if they keep losing. And if you look at their schedule ahead, it's not easy. They've got all West playoff or play-in teams. You've got Sacramento, who have picked up some wins recently, just beat the Cavs the other day. They've got Memphis, and they've got Houston. So teams they're competing with for the playoffs. Now,
the Houston game,
right? Houston will probably have the 2 seed locked up.
Exactly.
So, right.
So that may not mean very much, but yeah.
But Memphis, you're directly competing with. I mean, part of this might be, hey, we better do this now. If we don't feel like we can do this, do it now. We'll get that little boost from firing our coach, and that'll give us, a better chance maybe to win these games and make the playoffs proper and that sort of thing. But still, I mean, I can't help but look at it from a coach's perspective. I can't help but look at this and think this is just proof that no one is safe. No coach is safe or should feel overly comfortable in their job security if Michael Malone's going to get fired 3 games before the playoffs by the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. It's funny. There's some in the chat, and we'll get to some of that here if we have time. That just full disclosure, everybody, this is going to be a relatively short live for us because we both have to run soon here. But I will say this with all the people saying like, well, here comes that Jokic trade request. I said this on Twitter when somebody replied to me with that. I said, come on, we don't need to get silly here. But then I was like, then my head said, well, Luka got traded, so I don't know anymore.
I mean, that's, I guess, like Costa's notes here. You fire him only if Jokic doesn't want him there. Yeah. What are the odds? Now, Jokic, is he the kind of guy that's going to want a lot of, puppet mastering of the franchise or anything? I don't know. But doesn't seem like that's his thing. But
he just wants to play, go home and get home to Serbia and racehorses.
Right.
Like that's like really all it is with him. And he's always had Michael Malone's back, like always been there. So I don't think this was Jokic pushing. I don't even know that Jokic got any like say in this because a lot of people are like, well, they had to have gone to Jokic. I doubt it because this is an ownership call that was very clear in the statement that the Nuggets made, that ownership made this decision on Booth and Malone. So owners don't generally consult players. Like that's a pretty rare thing that owners are going to go to players.
But would that be, I mean, you would think most teams aren't going to make this kind of a change without at least running it by their superstar, giving them a heads up, something like that.
Not when it's the owner.
You think it could just be,
yeah.
Well, but then could that piss off Jokic or any star in that situation and say, fine, then I want out?
Yeah, it could. I just don't think it's going to. He's not that kind of guy. Like he's never been that kind of guy. Like he, I mean, not this, I mean this like as an absolute compliment. He's extremely boring. Like he's wonderful to watch play basketball, but he plays basketball, he goes home, and then if you want to get him animated or fired up about anything, you have to ask him about horse racing. Like other than that, like he really is just like
it's so funny.
It's like, like this is like okay, this is what I do. So so we'll see with this. I mean, but I would say now this, just the fact that we're going to have a new front office.
Yeah.
I would say this opens the Nuggets up to major changes.
Yes.
With this. So that'll be, really interesting as well. Kevin, thanks for checking in. But that's what we're talking about now with this one. So, that I would say, and I kind of thought that was coming even if Calvin Booth was around.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a chance, like you got to remember, Calvin Booth was pretty instrumental on acquiring a lot of the guys outside of like Jokic, Murray, and Gordon. I think Porter might have Porter got drafted by the old regime, but like he was pretty heavily involved in getting a lot of those players. And I think there's a thought of, is he too precious about those guys? Is he like, these are my guys.
Mm-hmm.
I signed a lot of these guys, or I drafted them or signed them. Where do we go from there?
When I look at what the Denver Nuggets could do, there were rumors at the trade deadline of them potentially moving on from Michael Porter Jr. Mm-hmm. And we talked about him in relation to Zach LaVine. Maybe there being something there. If the Nuggets want to do anything significant with this roster, and they do have somebody, even Dario Saric and Russell Westbrook have player options for next year, they're probably going to have to break up that core four, that Jokic, Murray, Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. I have a hard time seeing significant change hit this roster. Zeke Naji, I think, he's not going to move the needle for anybody. I don't think anybody wants to take on the extra years on his contract. Yeah. I think if they want to do anything significant, the new regime coming in, and new regimes coming in tend to want to do something significant, we're probably talking about one or more of those top four in Denver being in play this summer.
Yeah, again, I'm gonna say this fully understanding Luka got traded, but I would assume anybody coming in is not going to trade Jokic. Like that would be ridiculous. Then I don't know what Murray's market would even be. Like I don't think it's going to be very strong because you're talking. I mean, that's a lot of money owed to a guy who is been injured a lot in recent years. He's still really, really good when he plays. And I certainly don't need to tell Laker fans that. I know they know
absolutely
what Jamal Murray can do when he's healthy. But the problem is he hasn't really been healthy a lot. So, yeah, I'm with you. MPJ is where you got to go. Maybe Aaron Gordon, you might be able to get something there because start looking at it, those last couple of years of Aaron Gordon, 32, 34 million, not probably great. And, and then like guys like Najee, if you go a little lower down, like Strother or Watson, if you wanted to go there, those guys become like nice, like additional salary on top. So if you're trading Porter in a deal and it's like, man, we really need like 8 million more to go get player X, great, we throw them in there. But it's also important to remember the Nuggets are dealing with the aprons. Like they are, this team is wildly expensive. I mean, next year you're already over the cap for the top like 4 or 5 guys on the roster. So you're nowhere near where you need to be. I mean, you're barely under the first apron and you got to fill it out. Or you're already over the first apron. You're barely under the second apron before you fill out the roster.
So we're talking about maybe a taxpayer, but probably not even that because you won't have enough room.
Yep. Now, let's use it. If they do, let's use it better than they have the last couple of seasons. I mean, Dario Saric, like that was turned out to be an absolutely horrendous signing with the taxpayer MLE. And then this year, like just didn't work out. Last year was Reggie Jackson. We didn't even make it to the end of the season on that deal. So just not good. So yeah, I mean, they've got to make it work out. It's not, so this is important here to know. Kroenke has crazy money. We get it, but it's not about how much they're spending. It's about the restrictions on building the roster. If you're sitting up as over an apron team, as we saw, it's just very you can make things happen. We saw that at the trade deadline, and it's even easier in the offseason. But it's just hard to get things lined up. It's not as easy when you're dealing with those apron restrictions. Like they couldn't do a deal where they acquire a player via sign and trade because they're already up and over that first apron. So that becomes very tricky. So it's going to be, kind of hard for them to figure this out.
Keith, this is some interesting context that just came out here from Ian Begley. Take a look at this. He said the rift between Calvin Booth and Michael Malone was bad, but this is a stunner. The Denver coaches were frustrated by, among other things, recent front office-led additions to the coaching staff. Denver's top decision makers were unnerved by the short tenure of one of Booth's significant front office hires. Ownership spent significant money to bring in an exec Booth wanted, only to see the exec depart after a brief stint with the team.
Yep.
So that's again the ownership level that you've been talking about.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and that's part of this is, and Chris Haynes had some reporting on this of Calvin Booth and the Nuggets did not reach an agreement on an extension. So this was it. He was in his lame duck year working, there, and that turned into now the Nuggets basically saying, yeah, we're not going. And when you're doing things like this, where it's, we're going to do some short-term type stuff that says, yeah, we're only approving you to do short things. So we don't know that we're keeping you around. The last thing, you want to do is hire a whole bunch of guys who are going to be on contract past Calvin Booth, fire Calvin Booth and be like, we don't want these guys anymore,
right?
But they're on contract because then you have to pay them.
And then we've got KOC chimes in. Booth and Malone never liked each other, rarely spoke and talked behind each other's backs. With the team struggling on the court, ownership decided to fire both.
Behind each other's backs. It was pretty open at times.
Pretty openly.
Michael Malone at one point said earlier this year, I can only coach who I have. We don't have depth. We didn't build it out. And Calvin Booth's comment in that, remember, he did that on the record profile. Where it's kind of we've done a good job building it out. The coaches haven't developed the players. So that was the back and forth, that was very public. I mean, behind each other's back, sure. This is no breaking news that these two guys did not like each other. It's been that way for a while, but yeah, just crazy.
Wow. I mean, again, still a major shock here that this has gone down. Do you think this makes any kind of impact on the playoffs? Does this destabilize things in Denver? Where do you see this playing out from here when we look at specifically the playoff push here?
Yeah, I think again because there's the parallel with Memphis getting rid of Jenkins. I think with the Jenkins firing, we're the Grizzlies aren't really going anywhere anyway. I think even with Denver's struggles, and maybe that's just us putting faith in Jokic, there was still a feeling of they could still go on a run. Maybe not a finals run, but a West finals run. Felt maybe they could still get there. Now that's felt less likely over, I'll say, the past 3-ish weeks, as they just haven't been getting better. And then the Jamal Murray stuff continue to be weird, where it's why is he not coming back? What is happening with that? So, I mean, maybe this is the nail in the coffin of, Denver's their first round and out. And it's not going to surprise me if in, roughly about 3 weeks, if we're the Nuggets were out in 5 in the first round and, everything just kind of went sideways on them. I think we'd all that's what happens when you fire your coach. So, now it also wouldn't surprise me if it's hey, Jamal Murray's actually good to go and Jokic is here and they win a round or two. That wouldn't be a huge shock. More of a shock now than it would have been.
Sure.
An hour ago. But this is crazy.
Nate said, at this point, why would any talented basketball coach choose an NBA job over a brand name college? Malone helped bring in the only title in franchise history, and this is how they treat him. Yeah, I mean, you certainly can find more job stability at the college when you get those college coaches that have been around forever than at the NBA level. Like I said, if Michael Malone can get fired 1 year removed from an NBA championship by the Denver Nuggets, and to do it now, 3 games before they head into the playoffs, nobody's safe. Nobody is safe. We've seen the former coach of the year get fired. We've seen all kinds of stuff happen. Nobody's safe at the NBA level.
Yeah, I'll say this. So I remember Fred Hoiberg talking about this. Now, this was a number of years ago, pre-NIL and all that. He, at the time, when he was coaching the Bulls, somebody said, would you ever go back to college? And his answer was, I'll keep it clean, was F no. And he's I never want to sit in another living room and recruit again. And then he went into a long thing about how I've never had an NBA player that the academic advisors come and say, hey, they're not passing, history class, so they can't play today. They're academically ineligible. He's like, that has never happened to me as an NBA coach. So there's a lot of stuff with that. Now, that could maybe be changing where it is you now have all the top college teams are all hiring general managers. They're going to handle a lot of the recruiting, the transfer portal, and all that things. It's going to be how a lot of the big name programs are going to build out their rosters. And the coach is going to be a lot more of just coach. But the reality is Michael Malone is an NBA lifer. Like his dad was a coach forever. Like I'm not saying I don't know him. I don't know that he wouldn't say, yeah, why not go to college? The other problem is college jobs, we've already seen countless of them filled. The timing is never right for an NBA guy to make the jump into college when they're let go at the end of the season or very close to the end of the season because the top college jobs are already filled. So and plus a lot of these guys are like, they want to work with pros. They don't want to work with 18-year-old kids.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Kevin said Westbrook destroys teams wherever he goes. If this was a Russell Westbrook problem, and we have no indication that's what this is, they would have just cut Russell Westbrook. If they say Michael Malone is the coach of the future for us, they wouldn't have let Russell Westbrook. And again, we have no indication of that. I know there's some Lakers fans jumping in and all that kind of stuff. Sure. We have nothing to say that this is a Russell Westbrook, that he's involved in this situation, other than just being a player on the team.
Yep. Yeah, this is, absolutely bonkers. Like, just no one, I think, thought this was coming. I know we have 9 million questions coming in here that are like, is Jokic available? What about Jokic to this team? I'm going to just assume no. I assume that's going to be the answer. And, where we go. I think Michael Malone will have his choice of jobs in the NBA if he wants one. Of open jobs. Let me be clear. I don't think anybody's necessarily firing a coach to go get him. But I have heard people suggest this was more when Taylor Jenkins got let go, where they were like, Taylor Jenkins got let go. Like, could we, could a team that was on the fence about their coach fire them to hire Taylor Jenkins? Well, now that'll be the same conversation with Michael Malone as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. John says post Malone. Yeah, we'll see what the post Malone era looks like in Denver. I've got a lot of people say, well, it could be, Michael Malone to Memphis, maybe, and we'll see what that. Who knows? But
I jokingly said the Grizzlies should hire him today, and then let him especially, and then
let him coach against Denver
in
the playoffs.
A matchup against the Nuggets. Yeah.
That would be funny. That would be funny. What about David Adelman? What do you think about him taking over? Could he, for as much as people start picking these names and everything to try to connect to Denver, could the solution simply be David Adelman takes over the job? He's been in the running for head coaching jobs in the past.
Yeah, he's been around a long time. Again, another NBA guy, been around for a long time. Was with the Wolves, was with the Magic, and then I think he joined Denver like a year or two into Michael Malone. Taking over the Nuggets there. And he's been one of those guys where you hear his name every year and he goes on all these interviews, and that's how it goes for some guys. I mean, I know Laker fans don't have fond memories, but that's how it was with Darvin Ham, right? Sure. He went on interviews for years and years and years, and then finally cracked. Ime Udoka, same thing. Interviews, finally popped through. That's where David Adelman's been at. So, he certainly knows the team. It's, like they said in Memphis, there's not enough time to change a lot of stuff. Certainly, a week or so later, there's even less time to change things in Denver. So, I think Adelman will get his chance here to do, what he can. And maybe they go on a run. I had someone suggest to me that the Nuggets ownership, by saying we're cleaning house, we're changing and moving Malone, could have also been related to, what if they did make a run and they were still like, we're done with them? Can you fire them if they made it to the West Finals? Are you like, then that's can true. You fans would really lose their minds? So sure. My guess is it was just, let's, kind of get things moving here. So I think when you're in a spot with Adelman, it'll be, there to, maybe he makes a nice run here with the Nuggets. Maybe they're competitive in the postseason, and he does get the full-time job.
Yeah, it's like and maybe he does make that run, but it reminds me of what happened in Milwaukee with Coach Bud, where it was all, he's going to get fired. Then they won a championship and then went, oh, well, all right, I guess we're going to keep him. And then when it, became an issue again, and suddenly he got fired. So
yeah, if you have reasons to fire somebody, that's the other thing. I'll say this with coaches do get better. Like for whatever reason, except when people are being really ridiculous and calling a guy a bust after one bad game his rookie season. Rookie players get a leash, right? And young players will get a leash where it's like, man, like give them some leeway. These guys are figuring it out. They're learning the game. It's the same thing with a first-time coach. Now, Bud wasn't that in Milwaukee, but yeah, I mean, we often just expect like, hey, these guys got to be perfect right away, and that's just not how it goes. So yeah. But I'm with you on this one.
All right. Well, Keith, I know we both have to run here, but we did want to jump on and get to talk about this. I mean, insane breaking news. Obviously, it took over the entirety of our show for today, but it wasn't a ton of other things going on, and this was a true shock that Denver has now fired Michael Malone, moving on from Calvin Booth. And I mean, we're heading into a different era and now with the Denver Nuggets. And for it to happen this late in the season, I can only imagine there's got to be more to this that I think is going to come out. But this is very, very rare. Again, tied for the latest firing ever of a head coach in the NBA, in all of NBA history. Absolutely shocker here. Michael Malone being fired by the Denver Nuggets. Everybody, thank you guys for joining the show today. Make sure you do subscribe, turn on those notifications as well. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.